Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be showing you how I make this incredibly decadent and amazingly delicious Kiev cake. To start the recipe off, we're going to need to separate 8 egg whites from the yolks. Place the egg whites into the standing mixer, and the egg yolks you could just place into a separate container. When separating the eggs, it's very important that you don't get any of the egg yolks into the whites so that it has a very good chance of rising and becoming fluffy. Separately, I'm taking 2 1/4 cups of walnuts, baking it at 325 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes until they're nice and toasted. Once toasted, I place all the walnuts into a food processor and add in 1/2 cup of regular sugar, 2/3 cup of confectioners sugar, and 1/2 cup of flour. I start pulsing all of those ingredients until it feels like a whole wheat flour type of mixture. Now on to the egg whites. To the egg whites, I add in a pinch of salt and 2 teaspoons of lemon juice and start mixing it until it's nice and foamy and frothy. Once I see that's accomplished, I add in 2/3 cup of sugar, slowly 1 teaspoon at a time. Once all of the sugar has been added to the egg whites, I wait until the egg whites form stiff peaks. Be careful not to overmix so it doesn't turn clumpy, but also it has to be the perfect consistency where when you take the whisk out of the egg white mixture, it stands firm and is not too loose. So I periodically stop the mixer and check on the egg whites. This is the exact consistency to the egg whites that you want. If you flip the bowl over, the egg whites stay firmly in place and don't slide off. To the egg white mixture, I'm going to be placing in the walnut mixture that we've pulsed earlier in 3 stages. When mixing this, use the folding technique not to overmix. Now it's time to bake the meringues. I preheat the oven to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to be using these 2 baking trays for baking my meringues. I take some parchment paper and outline the shape so that they could perfectly fit into these trays. A springform pan is really best suited for this recipe, but I only had one of them on hand and I wanted to have my meringues be as perfectly equal to one another as possible, so I just used these 2 trays. I will have the springform pans and these trays linked in the description box below. Mostly everything that you'll see here, I really tried to link everything below just so you guys have links for everything that you may need. As you see here, I separate the egg mixture into 2 and try my best to make them as equal to one another as possible. I placed the 2 trays into the oven and set a timer on for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and the oven is still set at 250 degrees. Once the timer does go off, I leave the meringues inside for 6 hours with the temperature shut off. Now onto the creams. We're going to use an 8-ounce container of whipping cream. We're going to whip it until it's ready. Once the cream is whipped, I take it out of the KitchenAid mixer and place it into a separate container. Next to the standing mixer, I add in 2 sticks of butter or margarine or any kind of butter replacement that you may have, and I beat it very well, at least for 5 minutes until the butter looks almost white. So if you see any bits of yellow pieces in the butter like you see here on the outer rim, it's important to scrape it up, place it back into the mixer so that it can get white. Slowly add in the cream 1 spoonful at a time and let it get incorporated really well into the butter. Once everything is nice and incorporated, add in 1 cup of confectioner's sugar. First cream is now ready. The Kiev cake is composed of 2 separate creams. One is white and one is chocolate. So when I place the white cream into the separate container, I do reserve a little bit for decorating that you'll see that goes on top of the cake. Onto the chocolate cream, we're also going to be using an 8-ounce container of whipping cream and beating that up. Place the cream to a separate container. To a kitchen mixer, I add in 2 sticks of butter or margarine and beat it again for 5 minutes until nice and white. Add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1 cup of confectioner's sugar. Mix that really well until everything is combined. Place 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder and mix until everything is combined. Add the whipping cream to the chocolate mixture and mix well. Our cooked meringues have been in the oven cooling for 6 hours now, and now it's time to get them out. Be very gentle when you're removing the meringues from the baking tray so you don't crack them. Once they have been removed, then you can take your knife, scrape up all those little bits because we're going to be decorating the cake with all of those crumbs. I take a knife and just very lightly scrape off any imperfections so I could use those crumbs as well for the decorations. Besides using the crumbs, I also have here some walnuts that I food processed. I only used about a palmful of walnuts that I've processed. I chose a cake stand where I want to decorate my cake. I'll also have this cake stand linked in the description box below. I lined it with some parchment paper so that I don't get the sides of the cake stand dirty. Place some cream on the bottom so that the cake doesn't slide all throughout the stand. And on the flat side of the cake, I place down onto the cake stand. On top of that first meringue layer, I'm going to be placing the white buttercream. I placed the second layer of the meringue with the flat side up this time so that the imperfections are in the center. Now I placed the chocolate buttercream all throughout the cake. I also reserved some of this chocolate cream so that I can decorate the cake with it, and I place it into a piping bag. After all the cream's applied, I scoop up a palmful of the crumbs and place it onto the cake sides. I scoop up any of the excess crumbs with my fingers and remove the parchment paper. At this point, you can decorate this cake any which way you want. You can even write happy birthday or make shapes and different kinds of designs over the cake. This cake is by far one of my most favorite cakes to eat. I'm so excited that I finally learned how to make it and decided to share it with all of you. If any of you make this cake, please tag me on Instagram and let me know how it turned out. It's really not that complicated and it is so delicious and worth a try. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it and don't forget to subscribe.